Progress and Poverty, we're continuing in chapter 4, I believe, middle of page 86. Our purpose in this inquiry is to solve the problem to which so many self-contradictory answers are given. In ascertaining clearly what capital really is and what capital really does, we have made the first and an all-important step. But it is only a first step. Let us recapitulate and proceed. We have seen that the current theory that wages depend upon the ratio between the number of laborers and the amount of capital devoted to the employment of labor is inconsistent with the general fact that wages and interest do not rise and fall inversely but conjointly. This discrepancy having led us to an examination of the grounds of the theory, we have seen further that, contrary to the current idea, wages are not drawn from capital at all, but come directly from the produce of the labor for which they are paid. We have seen that capital does not advance wages or subsist laborers, but that its functions are to assist labor in production with tools, seed, etc., and with the wealth required to carry on exchanges. We are thus irresistibly led to practical conclusions so important as amply to justify the pains taken to make sure of them. For if wages are drawn not from capital, but from the produce of labor, the current theories as to the relations of capital and labor are invalid, and all remedies, whether proposed by professors of political economy or working men, which look to the alleviation of poverty either by the increase of capital or the restriction of the number of laborers or the efficiency of their work, must be condemned. If each laborer in performing the labor really creates the fund from which his wages are drawn, then wages cannot be diminished by the increase of laborers. But, on the contrary, as the efficiency of labor manifestly increases with the number of laborers, the more laborers, other things being equal, the higher should wages be. But this necessary proviso, other things being equal, brings us to a question which must be considered and disposed of before we can further proceed. That question is, do the productive powers of nature tend to diminish with the increasing drafts made upon them by increasing population? Oh, okay, so that was the end of... Okay, so this is book 2, I guess. I'm not sure how this book's divided. Titled Population and Subsistence. Here's a quote here. It says, "Are God and nature then at strife, that nature lends such evil dreams? So careful of the type she seems, so careless of the single life." Tennyson. Okay. Chapter 1. This is a weirdly structured thing. The Malthusian theory, its genesis and support. Behind the theory we have been considering lies a theory that we have yet to consider. The current doctrine as to the derivation and law of wages finds its strongest support in a doctrine generally accepted, the doctrine to which Malthus has given his name, that population naturally tends to increase faster than subsistence. These two doctrines, fitting in with each other, frame the answer which the current political economy gives to the great problem we are endeavoring to solve. In what has preceded, the current doctrine that wages are determined by the ratio between capital and laborers has, I think, been shown to be so utterly baseless as to excite surprise as to how it could so generally and so long obtain. It is not to be wondered at that such a theory should have arisen in a state of society where the great body of laborers seem to depend for employment and wages upon a separate class of capitalists, nor yet that under these conditions it should have maintained itself among the masses of men who rarely take the trouble to separate the real from the apparent. But it is surprising that a theory which on examination appears to be so groundless could have been successively accepted by so many acute thinkers as have during the present century devoted their powers to the elucidation and development of the science of political economy. The explanation of this otherwise unaccountable fact is to be found in the general acceptance of the Malthusian theory. The current theory of wages has never been fairly put upon its trial because, backed by the Malthusian theory, it has seemed in the minds of political economists a self-evident truth. These two theories mutually blend with, strengthen, and defend each other. While they both derive additional support from a principle brought prominently forward in the discussion of the theory of rent, viz., that past a certain point the application of capital and labor to land yields a diminishing return. Together they give such an explanation of the phenomena presented in a highly organized and advancing society as seems to fit all the facts and which has thus prevented closer investigation. Which of these two theories is entitled to historical precedence Which of these two theories is entitled to historical precedence? It is hard to say. The theory of population was not formulated in such a way as to give it the standing of a scientific dogma until after that had been done for the theory of wages, but they naturally spring up and grow with each other, and were both held in a form more or less crude long prior to any attempt to construct a system of political economy. It is evident from several passages that though he never fully developed it, the Malthusian theory was in rudimentary form present in the mind of Adam Smith, and to this, it seems to me, must be largely due to the misdirection which on the subject of wages his speculations took. But however this may be, so closely are the two theories connected, so completely do they complement each other, that Buckle, reviewing the history of the development of political economy in his examination of the Scotch intellect during the 18th century, attributes mainly to Malthus the honor of decisively proving the current theory of wages by advancing the current theory of the pressure of population upon subsistence. He says in his History of Civilization in England, Volume 3, Chapter 5, all labor is paid, and the number of laborers among whom the fund is to be divided. This vast step in our knowledge is due mainly, though not entirely, to Malthus, whose work on population, besides marking an epoch in the history of speculative thought, has already produced considerable practical results and will probably give rise to others more considerable still. It was published in 1798, so that Adam Smith, who died in 1790, missed what to him would have been the intense pleasure of seeing how, in it, his own views were expanded rather than corrected. Indeed, it is certain that without Smith there would have been no Malthus. That is, unless Smith had laid the foundation, Malthus could not have raised the superstructure. That's close quote. That was the end of the passage. Okay. The famous doctrine which, ever since its enunciation, has so powerfully influenced thought, not alone in the province of political economy, but in regions of even higher speculation, was formulated by Malthus in the proposition that, as shown by the growth of the North American colonies, the natural tendency of population is to double itself at least every 25 years, thus increasing in a geometrical ratio, while the subsistence that can be obtained from land under circumstances the most favorable to human industry could not possibly be made to increase faster than in an arithmetical ratio, or by an addition every 25 years of quantity equal to what it at present produces. The necessary effects of these two different rates of increase, when brought together, Mr. Malthus naively goes on to say, will be very striking. And thus, chapter 1, he brings them together. This is a quote, or passage. Quote, "Let us call the population of this island 11 millions, and suppose the present produces equal to the easy support of such a number. In the first 25 years, the population would be 22 million, and the food being also doubled, the means of subsistence would be equal to this increase. In the next 25 years, the population would be 44 millions, and the means of subsistence only equal to the support of 33 millions. In the next period, the population would be equal to 88 millions, and the means of subsistence just equal to the support of half." Oh, damn. Why isn't it? We're missing a page. I wonder if there's a picture there. Half of... No, we really are missing a page. We're missing page 94. Damn. Well, I don't know. Maybe it'll load. I don't know. That's it. We're stopping page 90. Well, page 94/page 95. The end. For now.